what a lot of people call suicide missions. So that's what I'm here for, you know. We go out there, I'm just like really excited. It's like a fat kid in an ice cream shop. I'm going to be the antidote to this poison, and I'm gonna be the guy who will confront evil wherever it is and kill it. Because I believe you cannot negotiate with evil, you can only kill evil. Do I get a list of questions? Or is somebody talking to me? Or...
I'll be talking to you.
My bicep look good?
Look good.
Blah, 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 blah. Okay, cut. I had a Biden moment. So I'm known as Viking out here. Name's irrelevant, none of you can pronounce it anyway. So I'm from Georgia, and the country, the real one, not the American one. So yeah, I served in the Georgian military for 4 years. I went to the officer school, basically what Georgian version of American West Point. And yeah, pretty soon it was evident to me that that place was not what I was expecting, because for someone like me, an upcoming young officer who spoke like 4 languages, did urban warfare with special forces, went to France in their academy for training and stuff, the command decided that I have to be a logistics guy, and I was like, yeah, that's not gonna happen. I say a lot of times because that my path on the becoming a warrior was 9/11, because Georgia is very far away from New York, obviously, but I was like 6 years old, I believe, when that happened, and my father and I were just moving apartments, and he told me to hook the TV up, so I did, and I turned on the TV, and I see just some smoke coming out of buildings, and I thought it was a movie, so I, next channel the same, and I told my father, they're playing the same movie on all channels, and he was like, wait, and just watched it. I think it was on BBC or something like that, and he was like, and then he had to explain to me what happened, but as a 6-year-old Georgian kid, you have no idea what terrorism is, you don't know what Al-Qaeda is and all this stuff, right? So I didn't quite grasp the concept of what was happening, but what I understood is that if anybody can do that to the United States, because for me, United States was those Hollywood movies, like Michael Bay movies with the American flag everywhere, and the military, and Black Hawk Down and all that stuff, and Arnold Schwarzenegger, and that was America for me. And I was thinking, like, if anybody can do that to America, they can do whatever they want to me and my family. So that was kind of where the idea was incepted to my mind at the age of 6, I guess, that I can either be the guy who's scared, or I can be the guy who prevents that happening to my family. And that's where it all started for me. And then when 2008 war happened in Georgia, and they bombed Georgia, the Russians, and invasion and war crimes and everything, it happened right in front of me. I was 12 years old at that time, and I was like, yeah, that was the final nail in the coffin. I decided, okay, I'm going to be the antidote to this poison, and I'm gonna be the guy who will confront evil wherever it is and kill it, because I believe you cannot negotiate with evil, you can only kill evil. For the past 300 years, our main enemy has been Russia. We've been under constant Russian oppression. Even back when Russian Empire was the thing, they came into Georgia and they tried to Russify the country, erased its identity, like they did in the eastern part of Ukraine. And Georgia is very old. We have Christian churches dating 5th century, and in our churches there were mosaics on the walls that depicted historical events, and they painted it all white to just destroy the identity. They destroyed, for example, fields of grape, because we make wine. Georgia is a wine country, so they tried to, it's a big part of the culture, so they tried to destroy that. And that's what pisses me off when a lot of Western media calls this war Putin's war. Putin wasn't even in this world when Russians were doing this stuff. So it's Russia and Russians. They're imperialistic, they're chauvinistic, and they believe they have the right to do this stuff, right? And then we had like 1921, the Soviet Union, the Red Army came in. And as communists do, they first disarmed the population and said for your safety, and then they literally killed everyone who had formal education. All the actors, writers, journalists, officers, anyone who could become a leader, who could read and write, was either executed or sent to gulags. They left only people who were like agricultural workers, and we were like under 70 years of Soviet slavery, and the repressions, and then the amount of people that died in World War II. A lot of them were taken from Georgia, including my great-grandfather, who started from his little village, went all the way to Berlin and came back. But it was a horrendous time. They completely tried to replace the culture. They tried to outlaw the Georgian language, which is one of the oldest languages in the world. And when people protested, they drove over them with tanks in the capital. So for Georgians, deep hatred towards Russians is just in our DNA. It's in our blood. We despise them. We want nothing to do with them. And currently, 20% of my country is under Russian occupation. Every month, they kidnap people from those borders and torture them and hold them for ransom and stuff like that. It's a terrorist country. It's just a big terrorist country with nukes. And they're picking on anyone who's not under the NATO umbrella. So as soon as this war began, this was what I've been preparing for 10 years of my life. I expected it in Georgia because it's such a smaller target, an easier target. But, well, they messed up and they hit this enormous country. So here I actually have the opportunity to take the fight to them, and I revel in it. I love doing this. In about January 2022, when they started to hold trainings on the border, because that's the cue for a Russian invasion, they did the same in Georgia in 2008. They did training, so they massed troops under the ruse of training, right? So I knew it was happening, and I was very angry seeing all this Western media saying, no, it will not happen, and I knew. So I already had my bag packed, I had everything ready, and when the invasion began, I was just waiting for an official legal route, because I never met a living Ukrainian before in my life. I had no connections here, so I didn't know how I could get into country. That's why I didn't come in January, because I didn't know where to go. I didn't know I could just come to Kiev and say, yeah, I want to enlist. I didn't know the methods, right? And then on the 26th of February, Zelensky announced that they were taking foreigners.
Сьогодні Росія атакувала всю територію нашої держави, але зараз доля країни повністю залежить від нашої армії, від наших героїв, наших сил безпеки, від усіх наших захисників.
So I immediately went down to the Ukrainian embassy in the Georgian capital. And it was actually quite a funny story, because there was like 400 people there, all GWOT veterans, people who fought in 2008, and Iraq, Afghanistan, people with 6-7 deployments, like real experienced guys. And we were being interviewed, we were just giving them our details, and I knew that they liked me because multiple languages, experience, all that. And I was expecting that, okay, we'll call you in like a week after somebody vets you, maybe you're a FSB spy, who knows, right? And they looked at the time and say, okay, it's 2 p.m. now, be in the airport at 6 this evening. And I'm like, what, now? He's like, yeah. And so I just go home, grab my shit, go to the airport, and the Georgian government, which is entirely owned by Russia right now, refused to let the plane land to take us to Lviv. And after that, Zelensky recalled the ambassador from Georgia, and the embassy didn't stop working, so we couldn't even get any information. So I said, fuck it. I picked up like the most civilian, gayest. I borrowed a pair of jeans because I don't own any civilian clothes. So I had fake glasses and shit, and I went to the airport. I bought a ticket to Warsaw, Poland. Went there, found the Ukrainian embassy, and I was like, I'm Georgian, I want to go fight. And this guy gave me a torn piece of paper with a number on it. I call that number, and this guy sends me a Google drop-in at the border. I show up there, and there's a vehicle ready, a bus, and that's how they brought us in. It was 3rd of March. 4th of March, I was already in Kiev. and I believe it was 5th or 6th, I was already in Moshchun in the first combat of the International Legion. It was the most horrendous experience I've ever been in, and at the same time, it was quite fun. Like that's a duality of combat, you know. Like it sucks, but then again, when the adrenaline kicks in and you see that you are doing something important, you know, it really feels nice. There were a lot of funny parts because back then, the Legion was like created the day we were deployed. So none of us knew each other's names, none of us have ever worked with each other. There was like zero cohesion whatsoever. And we just show up to this forest and start to march towards positions. A lot of people who were not on the fitness level were falling behind because back then they were taking everybody in. It was all hands on deck because Kiev was in a double envelopment, so they needed everybody. We had to stop them at Moshchun. And all of these people started falling back, so I stayed as the last guy and just shepherded them towards the general direction so nobody goes over into the minefields, right? So we get there, it's already dark, and we just find an empty hole and wait. And I decided to go like making little OP 20 meters in front of the trench just to like, you know, do challenging password and all that stuff, because we had no nods, nothing, just all I had was equipment from Afghanistan. I didn't even have a coat in minus 17 Celsius. It was just freezing. And suddenly I hear in my peltors, I hear vehicles and just 2 BTRs roll up, or BMPs, I'm not sure. I think BMPs, the doors were open in the back. And I'm like, they have no flags, no markings, nothing, and no headlights, so they can't see me, but they're 5 meters from me. All I have is an AK. So I'm like, okay, what am I gonna do? And I just scrolled to my right, so I had a visual on the doors, and I'm like, as soon as they open, I'm going to just empty a mag in full auto and just wake up everybody behind me, right? And the doors open, and these fucking British guys jump out of it with their like thick northern English accents, because of course the fucking Brits get delivered to the front line on the armored vehicles that I had to march through 7 clicks in. But I almost killed all of them, man. Like that's where the training comes in, you know. Like I waited to identify, and when I heard them like, "Oi!" I was like, "Oh, whoa, calm down," you know. Yeah, and next day the commander of the Legion brought me into what is now commonly known as Steel House. That's where I met Ryan. And for the next 6 days, we held the Moshchun, just 10 of us foreigners, plus 1 Ukrainian officer, and we just did not let them take the town, take the small village. There was the VDV, they're airborne, and Alpha Spetsnaz of the FSB, as well as they had full tactical assets. I'm talking helicopters, airstrikes, and every caliber of artillery you can imagine. The last day, basically, when we finally pulled out and our house was destroyed, everything around was flattened. Like there was not a single building standing there, because like they threw everything at us and they could not push us out. So they destroyed the whole village, and they still never managed to take it. And that is Moshchun, is exactly where the Russian advance on Kiev was stopped. And literally 1 day later, we began the counter assault in Irpin. And after the Battle of Irpin, they left the entire Kiev theater because they lost, basically. They got their asses kicked because they absolutely did not expect the resistance that they got.
What weapon systems you guys use? Like, what was at your disposal to hold off, you know, the 12 of you holding off an entire battalion?
So they gave me an AK for some reason. This is a funny thing because everybody thinks that Georgians, because we're post-Soviet country, we use AKs, but nobody has ever seen an AK in the army after 2008. It's all NATO standards. Westerners were given FNCs, like FN FAL, but collapsible one, which was the hottest piece of trash that I can remember. I remember like Ryan and the guys having like jams every 3rd round. It's just sand and stuff getting in, but I had an AK, so it just put through 12 mags without a single hiccup, you know. It was a brand new AK too, like with oil on it and stuff. Like that's been stored since 1970s, you know, never used. And it was people were borrowing my AK to shoot. But besides that, we had pretty much every type of AT weaponry imaginable, because back in Trump administration, I think it was, they gave Ukraine javelins and laws and stuff, so we had access to that. Like, they would just take whatever you want and use it, no limits, nothing. So, and the thing was that because we had so many Westerners who actually have trained with these weapons, they could actually utilize it. And some of them utilized it more than others inside buildings, giving us all TBI with backblast. But it worked. It worked. And yeah, positional defenses in winter, because it's just absolutely miserable if you have to hold the position, especially at the trench, because mud gets up to your knees. It's like minus 20 degrees. There's no resupply, no logistics working, because no transportation can go through that mud. So everything is being done on infantry level, so it's slow. And you're just basically for 72 hours or 5 days or something, just stuck in a hole, and you can't do anything unless Russians do something crazy and actually push where you can see them and shoot them. You just freeze there and just be there miserable. They think my rats ate my helmet. Like, they literally ate my helmet. So like, you just have to fight off everything, and then they finally start to shell you. They start to use the FPV drones, and you lose guys for nothing, just for some nameless hole in the ground that you know for a fact that as soon as this foreign element that's there to fight pulls out and is replaced by National Guard or something, they will lose it in the next 24 hours anyway. So you're just sitting there like, why is my body now without a leg? You know, because it got blown up by an FPV drone. Because of what? What are we defending here exactly? You know, and then it starts to really mess with your head, because they're not, because you feel like you're not being utilized properly. You take a higher tier units and use them as trench defenders, you know, and you start losing them. When the time comes to use them for actually higher tier operations, you don't have them anymore, you know, and they're not easily replaceable. Especially now, because in the beginning we're getting US Rangers, Navy SEALs, retired of course, SAS guys, and now the recruitment at this point with foreigners, that if you get like a 23-year-old kid fresh out of Marine Corps, you just hit gold, because, you know, he has proper military background, you know, because now it's like civilians, South Americans, so the quality just really went down. From the first group, the Moshchun group, only me and Ryan are here. At least like 15 guys that I've like actively worked with are either dead or incapacitated to the point that they are missing limbs and can no longer operate. A lot of guys also simply upped and left after just getting pissed off at the way they were being utilized, you know, because when you're 15 years, you've been in the Navy SEALs and you've done all this crazy shit during GWOT, and you come here and some 23-year-old captain starts talking smack to you, you know, and starts to argue with you where to land a boat from a country that doesn't have a navy, and you're a Navy SEAL, you know, not a lot of people will just take that. So there was a lot of that. But from the original Moshchun teams, only me and Ryan are still working. And from the Irpin group, which was a larger group, me, Ryan, and just plus one guy. Everybody else is just not here anymore. I do not have any other choice, honestly, because my country is under peaceful occupation. I cannot go back because all the Georgian fighters are there treated as terrorists, because that's what Russia has, arrest warrants on all of us and bounties. So when they go back to Georgia, you are under constant oppression. You have secret police tailing you, your phone's tapped, you cannot get a job, they will prevent you from ever getting a job or anything. So they really closing the claws on that one. In my case, I will never leave the airport. Like, I will just disappear, and then there'll be videos of me being tortured in Russia. So yeah, so I'm here until either that situation changes somehow with some miracle, or we achieve victory. Because if I do not win here and win decisively, then I have to fight another one in Georgia, which is smaller than Odessa Oblast. It's a tiny country, and we don't have Poland next to us. We don't have the Western backing that Ukraine has due to Georgia's geographical location. We have no friends around us, you know. So a war in Georgia would be absolutely devastating and much, much, much more difficult than here. So for me, the motivation is I'm fighting for my country as much as I'm fighting for Ukraine and, you know, the free world, let's say. I have the mentality of a canine dog, you know, like if I'm in the house, I bite the furniture, I destroy everything. I'm like really, I'm a workhorse, I need to be worked, you know, and every time like I am out there doing not trench sitting or some like stupid shit that anybody can do, like something actually really high risk, what a lot of people call suicide missions, that's what I'm here for, you know. And when we go out there, I'm just like really excited. It's like a fat kid in an ice cream shop, you know, like you wanna take it from every different approach, and after it you want to just like quick load and try the different method, but you can't anymore because it's the real life, you know. But yeah, it has that feeling that when you believe in the cause and you believe what you're doing actually matters, there is no fear, you know. It all gets just locked out somewhere in the back of your head, and you are just concentrated on the task. A lot of people ask me like, oh, what are you thinking about, like what's your emotions? Like none. I'm working. I'm like a robot in that situation. I'm talking about tactics, sector, you know, what's that shadow, what's that movement. You don't have the time to think about the philosophy of taking a life or whatever stuff like that. You're trying not to die. So you are very focused down to actual technical side, and that's what your brain works on, because if you get distracted, you die. It's the reality of it. Bakhmut was a big one, because in Bakhmut we got night visions, like a large amounts of them. So teams, 2 or 3 teams were rotating each other in Bakhmut, and on one of these ops, the Ukrainians asked us to retake a building that they've just lost. So we went there, and it's like raining and muddy, and it's just horrible weather, and we're just having these PVS-31s, white phosphorus, and you know, that it was like really, really nice ones. And as the shortest guy in every team, I'm always the point man. So I'm just going in there, and I see it, because it gets fogged up with the weather, with the like rain and cold and all that, so I can like barely make out the silhouette of a guy like 15 meters ahead of me, and apparently it's a Russian in that building who came out to have a piss, right? But they don't have knots, so and it's raining, so he didn't hear me until like 5 meters away, and he was like in Russian, who's there? And that's where my advantage comes from, because I speak his language, and I gave him the most normal and common Russian name, Sasha, because I'm sure that he had like 7 Sashas in his unit. So it's like, what are you doing here? I'm like, same as you, toilet, right? So, because he was talking, I knew exactly where he was, and I shot him like at point blank. Like it was my suppressor was like a centimeter off his face, and you know, it's not a Hollywood movie. Even suppressed, you're shooting supersonic, you know, green tips, so it just makes sounds. And as soon as that happened, and everybody in the building, it was like 3 more or 4 more dudes, started, you know, shuffling on the ground, and I was like, okay, grenades in, let's not risk it, you know, because it's, you know, jigs up now. But that was probably a memorable kill of mine. But other than that, a lot of the kills we do is from a certain distance into the mass of troops, because they sent, like in Bakhmut, waves after waves. They goggle fuck a lot because they don't have training and tactics, and when you have a saw on your position or a machine gun or any other, and you see a bunch, and you just, you know, like, and or there's enemies like Chechens I killed in Severodonetsk. They were shooting me from a window with an AK full auto, because I'm 1,000,000% sure his buddy was filming him for his TikTok. He's just going Allahu Akbar and shooting me, and I just pick up an RPG and throw it in the building. And you know, you're not gonna then count, okay, this leg is his and whose kill it is. It's just, you know, done. It was like that scene in Indiana Jones when this guy is swinging a sword and he just pops him with a pistol. Like, yeah, good luck with your full auto. I have an RPG. Like, a lot of these things you adapt You know, why waste? Well, why risk CQB? Because I always say, even though I'm CQB specialist, I always say the best CQB is done with a tank. If there is no Bin Laden in there that I have to drag outside for interrogation or hard drives, like, destroy the thing. Like, why are you risking your life, you know? Well, my dream is to defeat Russia completely in the field. I'm talking like military defeat. Liberate 100% of the occupied regions of Ukraine, and that will cause Russia to implode from within politically, and will split into like 40 different states, and they will never be able to recover from that, and they'll never be able to pose a threat to its neighbors like Ukraine, the Baltics, and Georgia. That's my dream. How achievable that is at this rate, that's a completely different question, because I believe that if the Western countries were a little bit more daring, if we had Ronald Reagan as the president of the United States, we would have F-16s and HIMARS in the start of the war, not at the end, where now they don't make as much of a difference, you know. Now everything's so bogged down, I honestly don't know where this is going at this point. But eventually, I hope we manage to have a couple of nice counterattacks pushes which will place us in a position of advantage for negotiations. Because eventually this war has to come to a stop, because there will not be a decisive victory from any side. That much is evident in the field, so it has to end. But I hope we end this phase of this war from an advantageous position and wait until Putin dies, and then it's a whole different war after that.
So guys that want to come over and fight, what is your, what's your pitch to them to come over and stack Russians alongside you?
First, lower your expectations. A lot of people come here and expect Call of Duty. It's not that. It's not fun 90% of the time. 10% of the time it can be fun, but 90% of the time it's the military. It's a lot of hurry up and wait, right? And it's a conventional full-scale war. You may be a very good shooter, you may be a very good operator, but again, when a GRAD is working a grid square, it doesn't differentiate between the tier of the troop. So there's a lot less balls out cowboy stuff happening now. So lower your expectations. Don't expect to come here and in the first 3 days you get the most modern equipment and you get parachuted into Crimea. No, you need to come here to do what the war effort needs. If you are good at HQ stuff, do that. If you're good at droning, do that. Not everybody needs to be breaking down doors. You know, help where help is needed. That's what I'm saying. And do your research. Do your research with the units. Talk to people. A lot of the units have Instagrams. A lot of the more known soldiers here have Instagrams and Facebooks and all that. So talk to people and figure out what works for you the best. The thing with Chosen, for example, is that when you come here, you are expected to do the craziest shit imaginable, and if you are not willing to do that, then it's not a place for you. But if you missed out on the fun parts of the GWOT, well, Chosen definitely is gonna work out for you.
The itsy bitsy spider went up the
I've been among those people who experienced occupation, so there was no way of escaping.
So
down came the rain and washed the spider out.
we wiped a whole company of Russians out. Had fly out like a popped watermelon.
Up came the sun and dried up all the rain.
You're gonna be given a rifle, 8 megs, get trained up, here's some grenades, go fucking do work.
Like 2 fucking helicopters fly over us and do like rocket strikes, like a volley, just launch them right over our truck and then flare off and come back. I'm like, bro, this is it, bro. This is real. This is fucking awesome.
I'm Ethan Nagel, scout sniper and filmmaker. I've teamed up with combat veteran and founder of Project Leaflet, Chris Naganuma. We traveled to Ukraine to capture the stories of the warfighters and civilians on the ground.
Welcome to Ukraine!
Everything from mortars, tanks, full immersion of chaos.
5 cruise missiles come overhead. That's the risk that you take when you're coming here.
Go, 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 go! Go, 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 go!
We're heading back into the bunker for safety. Make sure we don't get hit with counter battery.
Chosen company. Chosen company.
Chosen company.
Chosen company. Chosen company. Chosen company.
So mission success.
Yeah.
I mean, the action's smooth.
My brain turned off from the monkey to, oh shit, you're in a trench in Ukraine.
Itsy bitsy spider went up the spout again.
Yo, this shit hits different.
This has fucking rocks. I like it.
Thanks to VET TV for giving me the opportunity to tell my story and how I've been making good rations for almost 3 years. And stay tuned for many other stories of great warfighters in Ukraine.